Thank you very much. So I want to go to my first slide. Leveraging near-death experiences to create game-changing innovations. Did you know that 1%, less than 1% of Nigeria's population are voluntary blood donors? Now, I'm going to be telling you how I got to find out about this from my many blood stories. I've got loads of blood stories, but I'll share this particular blood story. So I had a diagnosis of an ectopic pregnancy and a ruptured ovarian cyst. Now, an ectopic pregnancy is when your baby is growing outside of your womb. It's a very life-threatening situation. And I had to go through, an emergency surgery. Now, everything went well, but had to be transfused, with blood because I didn't have enough at that point in time. So they went to the blood banks and there was just a unit of blood available. Guess what? It was expired. My mother, who was around, was not my blood type. My dad, who was my blood type, was not exactly within the state that I was at. And my sisters, who were my blood type, guess what? They had jackpot out of the country. And so I was left in a situation where my life was kind of like standing on a balance. Now, I've got other stories moving from the aspect of having a mucosal prolapse to internal and external stage 4 hemorrhoids, to the aspect of having issues in relation to my heart that could have affected my kidneys as well, to having an abscess, right? To having an abscess, and eventually, to having an abscess, and then eventually going through several tests and scans, MRI tests and scans to understand what was happening, and eventually now doing another surgery again that has to do with a fistula stage 3 in ano. So what exactly, and this is just me, like I'm not that old, this is just me, right? So what is the problem? The problem that I would like to talk about is the aspect of the blood needs of a country. Now, the blood needs of a country is basically the sets of people that would need to receive blood to be transfused with them. I just gave you my blood story. Well, we're talking about people who are going through cancer. They have cancer, going through dialysis, for example, HIV, those with accident victims, surgery, postpartum hemorrhage, so many other kinds of situations where they would need to be transfused with blood. Now, according to the WHO, the blood needs of a country is calculated at 1% of the population of the country. So let's take a look at the blood needs of Nigeria with a focus in Nigeria. With a focus of Nigeria, we can do a calculation as to the units of blood that is needed in a year. Now, according to the World Meta-Analysis, in 2024, July, we were about 229 million people in Nigeria. Now, if you multiply 1% by that figure, you are going to get about 2.2 million units of blood that falls within the category of our blood needs. It means that in that year, we would need at least 2.2 million units of blood that would go into being transfused to people like me and others as well that needed to be transfused with blood. And so what is the shocking gap? The shocking gap is that less than 1% of our population, right, are voluntary blood donors, according to the National Blood Service Commission. And what is this data telling us? What is this data telling us? The data is telling us that there's a lack of awareness as to what we call the blood needs, right? People also don't understand that even that there's several myths around blood. People believe that the units of blood that you have in your body while you were born is still the same that you have at the moment
which means that people don't want to donate blood because they feel like it's going to
deplete what they have in their system to the point where it's not enough for them. And that's not true. Some people also believe that women cannot donate blood. That's not true. And then we have a lot of men who are extremely afraid of the needles, right? And all of this is causing people not to what? Donate blood. And that's the shocking gap. So if we're to do some calculation, right? So let's do some calculation, some math. If we have 0.3% of our population, right, being voluntary blood donors, you multiply that by the figure of our population, then you see that we are only bringing about 688 units of blood. Now let's do some further math. If you do some further math, you see as well that when you take out 688,000 units of blood from what we actually need in the year, that's about 2.2, right, units of blood. When you do that calculation, what you have is a shortfall of about 1.6 units of blood. Now let me explain what the dark reality is. What it literally means, if you look at a shortfall, is if we need about 1.6 units of blood, units of blood in a year, it means that we may be losing approximately 1.6 million people who may need blood, right, to be transfused to them. Now, guess what? 1 unit of blood can actually save 3 people's lives because you have what we call blood products. We have plasma, red blood cells, platelets. Sometimes it's just platelets that's needed from 1 person's unit of blood, and it can actually save 3 people's lives. Now, if you do another calculation as to 1.6 million units of blood by 3 people's lives, right, we're having about 4.8 million potential people that we could be saving as a result of having more blood donors. Now, I've given you figures, but this is not just about figures. This is about real people. I shared my story, and the potential people as well, right here, even in the midst of us, that would need blood. It could be a Binta who, for example, has just received a scholarship to travel to another country, and for some reason, she has an accident and she needs to be transfused with blood, and we don't have any donor donating to her. Or it could be like those 2 beautiful pregnant women sharing their excitement about being pregnant and having their children and wanting to, of course, have their kids being raised together. But what happens? Right after delivery, she loses her life because of postpartum hemorrhage, right? Which is the leading cause of a lot of women dying, right? Postpartum hemorrhage, and at the end of the day, she is not able to play that particular role. So what is innovation in health when we talk about innovation? Innovation in health is basically the process of creating and implementing new ideas, technologies, and services to improve healthcare. And what is innovation in health, and how did I leverage my near-death experience to create a game-changing innovation? And all of that started with questions, asking questions. That if we can actually increase the number of the voluntary blood donors in Nigeria, we can reduce the number of lives potentially lost. It started also by saying, how can we create a platform, innovative platform for people to actually donate blood? And how can we share this fantastic stories, inspirational stories about people who actually helped save other people's lives by donating blood? And how can we get more data and information and sharing this data and information? And that was basically what led to the aspect of the innovation called J-Blood Match, which is an artificial intelligence that connects blood donors to people who need blood using their blood type and their location. And we use Google's API to make all of that connection with the smartphones that you have right on your hands. It was launched in 2019 as an AI on Telegram and on Facebook, and in 2023 became a progressive web app. J-Blood Match now is a community of blood donors, right, willing to use the platform of technology to saving lives. And so The information that is gotten from the point of registration and from the point of a request is what JBlood Match uses to making the connection. So your gender is sought for at the point of registration, your age, your blood type, your location, where you're at, your telephone number, and at the point of a request, we're finding out the date your donation is needed, the units of blood, your blood type, the hospital you're at, the doctor in charge of that, and the reason why you need blood. And JBlood Match does the connection, making sure that people are able to donate. And so what do we have in our numbers? So far, we have registered blood donors, about 1,500 registered blood donors across different places in Nigeria. We've been able to receive 301 requests for blood, and we've been able to successfully match 111. And we have over 40 JBlood Match advocates across the whole of Nigeria. And so JBlood Match, what is the goal? Still saying the same thing. Increase the voluntary blood donors. Numbers of lives lost from this would reduce. We want to be able to track, right? We're going to be tracking the number of donors in an area, in a state, in this location. We will be able to say that there's an increase in requests for blood. There's a reduction. There's a stability here. More people in Abuja are requesting for blood simply because they are anemic. This is going to be driving what? Health policy, information that would help to drive about health policy. And remember, like I said before, these are real people that are literally having different stories like me. And I hope that I've been able to inspire you that you can reinvent the way you think and the way you act, especially in very challenging situations, because you never know when you would come up with a fantastic innovation that would actually transform your community and transform your world. Thank you very much.